Amit Sharma. I head HR for Volvo Group in India. I've been in this space for almost about now 23 years. Been an exciting journey working through some of the great organizations like Indian Oil, Johnson and Johnson, Philips, and been in various roles, both local as well as global, across my journey of these 23 years. So, why it happened? I think it was more destiny rather than anything else. Sometimes this life takes a bit of a turn and moves you in a particular direction. And when you get an opportunity, you say, okay, this is what I need to do it. I think that's how it happened. And I'm thoroughly enjoying this space. I think this is one space where you can really make the biggest impact in an organization, because everything else, in my view, in an organization is something which is easily replaceable, replicatable. But when it comes to looking at it from a point of view of people, that competence, the culture, the kind of the larger setup which you create with people and culture, I think that's the competitive advantage of an organization. So that's the most exciting space to be in my view. If anybody has to work in an organization, HR is the space, and uh, thoroughly enjoying that. I love photography. I love listening to soft music. I love reading. That's something is my favorite pastime. Uh, so whenever I'm unwinding myself, that's where you will find me with a book, with some ghazals playing in the background, and just relaxing and unwinding myself. That's something I really love doing. Photography is another piece which uh, you know it's another exciting field, because it's about how you capture something which is right in front of you, and a photographer can give a very different dimension to what you are capturing. A simple picture you can capture as a large scenery, you can capture as a focus, you can focus on something very discrete in that. So it's a very creative field, I find. It's not just taking the camera and clicking it. So it's about how you really want the world to see that view. And as a photographer, you really create that view for the world, and that's the beauty of it. And that's something which I really love doing in my free time. When you're really looking at it, future of work, when you're really looking at it from a point of view of now how it's going to uh, unfold, we need to look at it from two aspects. One is what industry you are in. There is no one size fits all in this. Though we may say that the world is moving towards remote working, hybrid working, is that applicable across the industry? My answer is no. Even within my company, is it applicable across the company? The answer is no. So, first of all, we really need to understand that different models will work for different industries and different functions. And in an organization, when each function is aligned to a different industry, as for example, if I have a large IT center, I have a large technology center, apart from manufacturing, sales, supply chain, and those traditional functions in a manufacturing company. uh, IT folks, when they don't compare themselves with manufacturing industry, they would compare themselves always with the larger IT organizations outside. Same is the case with technology. Manufacturing will compare themselves differently. So we'll have to create different solutions on this, around what is the what works best. Number two, we also need to look at it, what's the talent's expectation in each of these areas. So somewhere, even if we have our internal resistance in the organization, the managers may not be able to, or they may be wanting a particular way of workforce model. But if the larger talent outside is moving in a different direction, then we can't be completely taking a different path. So organizations have to, number one, balance it out between what their expectations are or what their industry needs, plus in terms of what is the larger talent availability outside, and then we'll be able to do the right mapping in terms of what workforce model will work for whom. For some it may not be, it will be completely working from office. For example, manufacturing. I can't have somebody building a truck or a bus or a car sitting at home. I need those people very much in office. Whereas if somebody is working on a software development, maybe the person can work from home or work from anywhere. But if you're looking at people who are designing a truck, again, it's a more a hybrid thing, because there you do need collaboration. A truck is not something which is just one aspect. It has braking system, it has chassis system, it has cab system, it has a larger vehicle engineering piece, it has the engine, transmission. So much aspects are there. The entire automation, the sensing technology which you're building in. Again, you need people to collaborate. So depending upon various roles people are performing in an organization, what kind of models you have will differ from function to function, role to role, and from a point of view of what's the larger labor market availability. Organizations also need to be flexible in some of these approaches. For example, if organization really wants to enhance, let's say, uh, regional diversity in the organization, gender diversity in the organization, and then those roles can be worked for remotely. Why should we do that? Why do we want a person to relocate, let's say, from Guwahati to Bangalore, if the role can be pretty well be done remotely? Or if we need to have a women talent who has a young child, and she wants to really work from home for some time, and we should give that flexibility. So we'll have to, it has various elements, and we need to look at all these dimensions together to really look at what's going to be the way forward, what's going to be the the future of workforce models in organizations. Most of the organizations are now struggling with this, that if they want to get the workforce back to office, if their model requires them to come back to office, how do they really implement it? Because people are used to working from home now. It's working also in many ways. See, the key thing, number one, is that you have to welcome people to office rather than push them to come to office. And there's a fundamental difference between the two. You can't really have a dictate and saying, hey, from tomorrow onwards everybody is in office. I think those days are gone, and we really need to also adapt to the fact that as organizations, as managers, that will not work. What kind of pull mechanism we are creating if we want those roles are effective in coming to office? That's something we really need to look at it. So there has to be, in my view, three broad principles when you look at deciding coming to office or not, and then accordingly, then the next piece of how do you really build that excitement in them. So one is what is the customer expectation? Are the customer expectations met by virtual means, or the customer expectations are met by coming together in office? Or for example, a salesperson, does the customer expect the salesperson to visit and have the conversation, or they're okay doing virtually? So same is the case with suppliers, same is the case with the other stakeholders, internal, external. So one has to really look at that first. What is the larger requirement of delivery with respect to a customer in that role? And then accordingly, we need to really build that uh, pull in the employees towards it, so that they also know that why we are doing this, just because of the fact that this is required for the role to be effective, and the customers expect us to be like that. That's a fundamental communication which we need to do. Second piece is, what is the level of collaboration required in a role? Does the level of collaboration required, where you really need to work across multiple teams in a closed setting, and then be effective? Roles which have high dependency on each other, roles which have high dependency on cross collaboration, interdepartmental collaboration, there it makes sense to come to office and again communicate that to people why we are getting it. Third piece is, does it make sense from a health and safety? Because ultimately health and safety of our employees is paramount, and you can't overrule anything above the health and safety of our people. So from a health and safety standpoint, what's really going to be the picture? So you have to create a picture using all these three dimensions, and then welcome the employees back to work if you are wanting them to be in work over here. Now, if you really look at it from other aspect, what do we really do? You talked about some of the strategies, what we are doing. One of the key pieces to my mind is communication. How much are we communicating? See, ultimately, whatever employee understands is a factor of how much we have communicated to the employee and how well we have communicated to the employee. So instead of expecting that employees would understand on its own or they know the picture, it doesn't really happen that way practically. People still have questions. People still have their own their own views around what will work, what will not work according to them. And then if you have an alternate view around it, I think it's very important to talk it out, understand their concerns, and then address them and speak to them in that way. So the key piece here is number one is communication, and I can tell you there is nothing called as over communication when it comes to organizations. As much as you communicate, it will still be insufficient. So you need to continuously communicate around why and what of it. That's very important. People want to today see workforce is no longer a workforce which used to be, maybe I said during my father's time or my grandfather's time, where manager has said and you have to do it. It was that kind of a communication in the organization. It was about this is the notification, this is the order, we have to implement. Now it's about people want to know why they are doing what they are doing. What is the reason behind it? What's the purpose behind it? So I think from a communication standpoint, that's the first and foremost thing. And we have been investing a lot in terms of communication across all levels, whether it's through the leadership teams, through the respective managers, through our town halls, through our virtual addresses to the employees, to putting articles or the need or the context on our internal intranet site. So all of that is really happening from that standpoint. Second important piece we need to understand is how are the managers looking at the well-being of the employee. So from that standpoint, if you're looking, when we are starting a meeting, at that point of time, I think the first and foremost thing today which people need to ask is, how are you really feeling, or is there anything bothering you from being fully present in the meeting? I think these are two important questions we need to ask at the beginning of every meeting, every interaction, because it really helps clear the space. And we have seen it in many cases when we set up a meeting of 1 hour. For 45 minutes, employees were just speaking. They were so full about what was bothering them. So I think that's an important piece. If you are you demonstrate that care, demonstrate that empathy towards their well-being, and that's when they will really understand why you are saying what you are saying. I think that's an important piece. Third important piece when we are looking at it is inclusion. Whether you are calling them to work or they are working from remotely, are we ensuring that across both sides of the spectrum, people are included when it comes to their voice, when it comes to their perspectives being heard, when it comes to different projects being given to them? There shouldn't be bias anywhere. The moment you create, many times people have a bias about people who are coming to office. They say, oh, they are more productive because they are coming to office, and people who are not coming to office, they are less productive. I've also seen sometime making a comment when somebody is working from home. Next day, the person manager will say, "Hey, so how was the holiday yesterday?" Uh, you know, uh, People still, there are managers who have this mindset of work from home means holiday. Work from home means that it's more relaxed working. Uh, that's not the case, because in office, at least what happens is you are seeing a person working in home. The person may be working double the hard, more the time. Maybe the person extending right till late in the night if the work demand. Just because you are not seeing it doesn't mean that that's not happening. So I think that element of inclusion is very critical. Managers need to ensure that whether the team member is remote or the team member is physically in office, both are given equal opportunities, both are equally heard, both are equally valued, both are equally appreciated, and we are focusing our appreciation and recognition on the outcomes rather than from where it is being done. So I think if you are able to look at these are some of the things which are important if you are able to do it, and that creates that excitement. We need to ultimately you know uh, have to have a balance of power now. It's no longer about organization decides and employee executes. It's about how do you collectively decide what's best, and the way forward is all about conversations. The way forward is all about working together. It is because if you will not do that, the talent is not going to respect you. We are no longer in that era of lifetime employment, or we are no longer in the era where an employee doesn't have opportunities. Employees have a world of opportunities, and we're seeing this entire thing of great resignation and the LinkedIn reports which are saying that 70% of the people want to really change their jobs. All of that is happening because why they are wanting to change their jobs, because maybe either they are getting something more exciting outside, or they are not feeling valued where they are currently are. And then there are opportunities. So if as an organization we will be not be mindful of all these factors, we will be left behind. And then whatever we may do in part of our annual employee engagement surveys or such events, things will just not work, because it's the daily touch points with the employees which finally matter. So if you are able to create that better daily touch point through these means which I just said, for people on the both sides of the spectrum who are coming to office and who are not in office and working remotely, we'll be able to create, in my view, a better environment and a better, I would say, morale and productivity of the people who are working with us. The three positives, if I look at from the organization standpoint, number one would be you have today access to talent across the globe. You no longer require a person. Let's say if we are in Bangalore, then either the person has to come to our office has to be from Bangalore, or the person is to relocate to Bangalore. That's not the case. Now the person you can hire talent anywhere. And let the person perform from there, and then you are done, and you just need to ensure that the factors which I said earlier, that those factors are taken care of. Things can work. So your entire world is your talent pool, and same is the case for an employee. The entire world is an opportunity. Today probably I can work for a US organization sitting very much here. In my company there are people who are working for headquarters sitting right there in Bangalore, which was earlier unthinkable. If anybody had to work for a role in headquarters, they had to relocate to Sweden, or they had to relocate to any other part of the globe if they were working for that. I have people here working for Japan. I have people sitting in Bangalore working from Poland. I have people here sitting working for France. I have people here sitting for Sweden. I have people here sitting for working for Singapore. All of that is happening today. And we are also equally tapping the talent outside in those countries. So I think that's an important shift which has happened, and a big positive which is both for the employees as well as the organization. Second piece in my view is it has also given visibility to talent all across. So for example, if there is a let's say a presentation to a senior leadership, generally the head of a function will travel to the headquarter, and they will talk about it, and make that presentation, or make that, or have that conversation. Now since it's virtual, and things are happening maybe through, like we are having it through Zoom or Teams or such forums, I can have that subject matter. If there is somebody from my team, let's say, who has worked on a great project around talent development, then instead of me speaking to my global CHRO, I can have my person sitting right in front of me and say, hey, why don't you take the lead? And I'm there to support you. So earlier, those opportunities were just not there, because due to travel, the cost involved, you can't have the full team going. Today, I can have the full team. If there are 4 people working on it, all the 4 people can be very much present in that call and talk about what they had done rather than just one person representing them, or the function head representing them. So the visibility of talent, across to the senior leadership across the organization globally, I think that has increased. That's a second big, I would say, a positive for this. And the third one, I would say, is this entire flexibility has also given a better, I would call it, a work-life balance to people, especially in cities like Bangalore, where you spend 2 hours, every day on the road. You typically spend, I spend 1 hour in the morning and 1.5 hours in the evening coming to office and going back. Now that 2.5 hours is a direct saving for me, which I can decide how I can use that, whether I want to use it for my personal passion, I want to use it, for work, or want to spend that is additional family time which I have. It's my choice. I've saved that time, which is very, very critical, when we look at the larger mental health of employees, when we look at it, the larger well-being of the employees. So those are three broad positives, which I would really say. On the other hand, when you talked about the three not so good parts, the first piece I would say is differential access to technology. So what happens is, everybody doesn't have access to technology when you are all remote. There are places where people are in patchy networks. There are places where, sometimes your infrastructure is not good in terms of the chairs which you have, the table you have, or for that matter, the laptop which you are using. If the laptop is really not working, how quickly it can be replaced because you are in some remote place in some corner of the world. But the network becomes a very the big part of it, because when you are in office, it's a much more smoother process. So from that standpoint, sometimes you find that people who are in office tend to have an advantage because their speed of execution becomes much higher than people who are there. So how do you really manage that is very important part of the, in the organization, to take care of this, that due to differential access to technology, people shouldn't be at disadvantage, and we should be able to create equal opportunities for all. The second issue is also the power of influence, because when you are in office sitting in the place, your access to people is very high. You can have quick corridor conversations, you can have a quick 2 minute coffee conversation with your manager, with other stakeholders. So if there is something to be done, those small conversations moments are able to provide you with an opportunity which you don't get it when you are remote, because in your remote, for everything you need to set up a meeting first. You look at the calendars, look at, where the blue band is not there, and you still have those space in the calendar, and try to put it there, and then you are pretty formal in your conversations during that time. But many times, that when the things get done are not through formal meetings, it's about those informal conversations which happen, which is about ideation, which is about just bouncing a thought, which is just about having those quick moments of reflection. That's something which a person in office is able to do much better than person who's in a remote. So I again see that that's a downside of it for the people who are not sitting in office, and they are not able to have that conversation. And again, is for organizations to decide or to work on how do you really create that equal opportunity for people across both. But still, no matter what you do, I think that advantage is there when you are in office and you are stealing that quick 2 minutes from someone, even between the two meetings. Even though the meeting room, the meeting slot is fully booked. Let's say we are at 11, so there was a meeting which was at 11, and the new meeting was is from 11 to 12. But the person is late and he has not come to the cabin of your manager, and you quickly take this quick 2 minutes to quickly bounce off that time and come out, which doesn't happen otherwise. So that is the disadvantage to people on the other side. The third piece is the social connections. See, what happens in office organizations are not just run by processes; they are equally run by people's own chemistry between each other. If we say that everything will work by a process which is defined, I can tell you nothing will work. Finally, it's about, what's how do we really interact with each other, how do we really collaborate and problem solve sitting together. That solves most of the issues. We do see this inefficiency. Like earlier we used to say that, don't try to fight it out over emails. Speak, pick up the phone, or walk up to the person and have a conversation. Now, in the hybrid concept, or when somebody is in a different place, you can't really do that. How do you then, that's a disadvantage which people have compared to, when you are in office. Ability to create those social connections, ability to have those, those coffee corner conversations, ability to have those water cooler conversations, and then, getting issues resolved there is a miss, which doesn't happen, in a remote working. Because in a remote working, everything is formalized, everything is emails, or we have to set up formal meetings. So that social connections are not really built in. And even when you are looking at it today, the hybrid working is working well because most of the people had good connections, but we knew each other well. But imagine somebody who joins completely virtually, and and the person has never seen office. For them, the office is this, maybe 1.5 feet by 1 feet of screen. That's essentially the office. Beyond that, they don't rest. Everything is their own home. So how do you really build that, connect with the organization, connect with the culture, connect with the rest of the colleagues, the co-workers? I think that's where there's still, they are currently at a disadvantage. So those are the three things which I would say are the good and the not so good parts uh, of this model. See, there's no two doubt about it that this is the most important piece. When you're looking at it, upskilling, cross-skilling, because the world is no longer what it used to be earlier. Even our products, if you look at it, for example, you know, uh, 25 years back when we passed out from our engineering college, uh, a truck or automobile engineering was a offshoot of mechanical engineering branch. Today, an automobile is more electronics engineering and computer engineering as much as it is a mechanical engineering thing. Because if you look at the entire the entire instrument cluster, which earlier used to have all the needles there, it's all electronics now. The vehicles have various sensors which are there, which are again electronic devices. A simple thing like even the parking brake has become an electronic parking brake rather than a lever which you pull there. The entire concept of automatic vehicles is an electronic process. We are now moving into electromobility. We are now moving into hybrid power line or power trains. So things are fundamentally changing. So from that standpoint, you need to continuously upskill, reskill yourself to be relevant to the customers. The first and foremost thing I think which everybody in an organization needs to understand is what they call it as the pestle analysis, which is understand the political environment, the larger environmental sustainability issues around your industry, the social issues, the social aspects, or the demographics, technological aspects, legal aspects. What are those? Because they are continuously changing. So you have to be understanding it, what environment you are really working in. Because if you are not really understanding the change in the environment, things will not work. For example, today, as we are looking at reducing the carbon emissions, we are looking at becoming more greener, and sustainability is a key focus. One of the key things we are also looking at internally is that how can we really partner with organizations which are producing, let's say, green steel. So for our construction equipment, business, we are actually tied up with a company which is making green steel. When I say green steel, means steel which is where there's no fossil fuel usage while converting that iron ore into iron and iron to steel. So the entire piece is using green energy. We are now talking about green foundry, where again there is no fossil fuel being used in terms of the foundry operations. So that's the way things are changing. So you need to be abreast with that and understand that what skills will be required now in this environment going forward. If we have to now move to a zone where the internal combustion engines or diesel engines, as we call them, will go away and we'll more have electromobility. How do you really upskill yourself towards an electric powertrain? How do you really upskill because there is no gear system? It's a motor now, which has a battery pack. Very different from the diesel and the fuel injection and the four-stroke engines which are typically there. So it's a completely different world which is changing. Then you have the legal requirements changing. Like for example, in India, from April last year, we moved from Euro 4 to Euro 6. So when you are moving from Euro 4 to Euro 6, it means a fundamentally very different emission standards, and which means the entire product needs to be redesigned to ensure that the emission levels are in line with the legal requirement which have come in that. So that's very critical piece. The social environment you are working in, the technology changes which are happening, where we are seeing this technology change towards hybrid powertrains, hydrogen fuel cells, all of that. So I think when you're looking at it from upskilling and cross skilling, the first and foremost aspect is how do you ensure that you have the right environmental knowledge, political knowledge, technological knowledge, legal knowledge, social knowledge, environmental knowledge, and then look at what is going to be the skill for the future. Which skills are currently being used, needed now, and what skills are going to be used in future, and then you have to work towards it. Second important piece is, you need to look at it, building your skills from an end-to-end perspective. When you go to a customer doesn't want to speak to four different people in your team for his problem. He wants or she wants you to, they'll tell, okay, I want a solution, let's say for my mining. I have a mine here, and I need a solution for my mining. Or I have a transport, I'm a logistics company, I want a solution for my logistics problem. If you simply go there and say, okay, this is a truck, and you buy this truck, or this is my mining equipment or a construction equipment, you buy it will just not work. So understand, upskill yourself towards the full value chain, which the customer is really looking at from you, and then be abreast of it is very critical. And then we have to also upskill ourselves towards selling solution to the customer rather than the product, because going forward, the world is more and more moving towards services rather than towards products as such. So it's very important that we are able to create a bouquet of services, again, which means a complete upskilling of ourselves around a very different operating model, upskilling ourselves into a very different delivery model. The rental models of the product will be different. So how do we really build that? The revenue models will be different. So it's very important that we are able to uh, you know uh, do that and understand the customer, and then look at from all these perspectives. Coming to what we are doing, one of the key aspects in Volvo is something what we call as a Volvo Group University. And that's one of our global learning arm within the people and culture team. And here we have made various academies over there. So you have a technology academy, operations academy, product management academy, leadership academy, general management academy. So all of that is there. So these academies are having representation from the businesses, and we take inputs from the external uh, specialists, and then together we create the learning curriculum, which is then delivered through the learning delivery partners, through various playlists, online playlists, offline programs, and then ensuring that people are going through them and ensuring that we are really baking it in the larger business strategy itself, because upskilling has to be built in the business strategy. Uh, it's just not the HR area; it's a larger business area about having the right competence. Then internally, what kind of support systems you are creating in an organization to uh, motivate a person or to nudge a person to upskill themselves. So in organizations, what are your reward mechanisms around it? What are your developmental mechanisms around it? So we are creating now, instead of saying that people are going to move by hierarchy. So you are at a band A, then to band B or band C or band D, and where generally people grow by, you have done a good work in one band. Okay, now let's move you to the next band, and that's a different role, maybe expanded role. We are now looking at more competence based movement of people. So it's about, we have created a set of competencies, and then as more and more competencies you acquire, that's how you grow up in the value chain in the organization, and that's when you grow in terms of your responsibilities and the role. So we are looking at it from a point of, creating an enabling ecosystem where on one hand we are providing an opportunity which is there for the people. On the other hand, we are also creating enough pull in the people to take that opportunity, because then if they know that if we'll take that opportunity, utilize those competency building programs which we have, that will help them grow in their career in a very different direction and in a better direction. So it's a combination across all these three elements. Business taking full ownership around it, we creating the right ecosystem and the programs and the set of events or interventions, and ensuring that the employees have the right pull or the appreciation towards doing that, and they see there is something in it for me, and if they will upskill themselves, they will grow in their careers, and everybody is concerned about the career growth. So it really helps us. If you look at it, things connecting from three dimensions, it works pretty well for us. I think we need to bring back the balance to human being in an organization. See, what at an earlier during the earlier days, HR department was more focused around people. Then this entire concept of technology suddenly started coming in, and we think, okay, we are now getting into manager self-service, employee self-service, and most of the thing we're saying employees responsible for themselves. The connect became more e-connect, and then in many cases when you looked at business partnering, people started looking at it. Business partnering means only doing what is right for the business without understanding that the business right has to be balanced with what is right for the employees. It's not one either or, but in many places I have seen it. It becomes a binary. That if you are speaking well what is good for the business, and you're completely ignoring the balancing act about is it really makes sense for the employees also. So that is an important aspect. We have seen that in the COVID things have changed, because suddenly the employee health became most important piece, and every company was looking at it from that lens, and they prioritized employee health even among over the customer. The factories were shut, offices were closed because it was not safe, and even though it meant we are losing out on the revenues, but they said okay, but not at the cost of our employees. I think that's a big shift which has happened. Now we need to sustain that shift. We need to balance out. Sometimes I see people are not able to make this balance between what is right for the business versus right for the employees. It's an important element to be balanced, and that's the key job of an HR person. An HR person, I strongly believe, when he or she is on the table, as much as he or she is a business manager, and going to take a business decisions, he or she is also representing the voice of employees on the table. An HR manager is equally representing the concerns of the employees on the table, what will happen if you're going to take a particular business decision, how it will impact people, and how can we ensure that that impact is positive on the people. So I think that shift somewhere, we kind of in that entire journey, we lost that connect. I think we have to just bring that back more. And I always say that we need to implement technology with heart. So heart has to be there. Without that, it just can't work. As in, if you are not an HR person who doesn't have empathy, who doesn't have heart for people, I think you are in the wrong profession. Maybe you need to do something else. So we need to really keep that change in mind. This shift which has happened due to COVID, I think we will now sustain this shift and take it to the right level, where it is everywhere. People are understanding this aspect, that as much as it's about getting the revenues, profitability, but more importantly, it's about people. And if you do well for your people, the rest of the things will automatically follow. That's what I would say for